Yes. I don't see anybody back there. As soon as I see somebody. Here's another. We had another technical issue go. So that you see a camera set up there. Hi, camera. That's going to be broadcast on BCAT, and we'll have a video up as well, a YouTube video of tonight's festivities. I forgot to press start before I went up the first time, so I hope you don't mind if I start over. How many are here for the first time tonight? Yeah. You'd really love it if I went over everything that I went through over before again. Try to find a way. Hey, Bailey, Lindsay, does the microphone go up any louder? Okay, so make sure you eat that microphone. Don't tap it, but if you hear the pop, 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 that's good. All right. In most situations, it would not be, but anyway. So, as I mentioned, true stories told live, 5 minutes, no props, no notes. If you've ever heard of the Moth, that's similar to what we do here. And I am going to mention the Moth later. Allison had asked if I would tell the story either that I told or I would have told at the Moth. And before I get to that, and my answer was if we have time, I'll do it. And so far it looks like we have time. So I will get to some of that first. But first, I want to get to how all of you can participate tonight, and that is through our question of the night. And it looks like our responses have been robust. So, I will tell you that as good as the stories always are, sometimes these, you are the highlight for these. So tonight's question is, tell us a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. And I have not read these ahead of time. Don't make me do that. Don't write something on here that makes me want to do that. Okay. And actually, maybe you do. Give me time to massage it. All right. The first September, I saw big yellow buses going down the road, and I wasn't at work. Wow, nice. Nice. Was that you? No? Nope, not answering. Okay. Yeah, it's probably a few of you, right? Okay. So tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. And by the way, I'm not going to try and point out everybody, because these are supposed to be anonymous. But if there's something really juicy, I'm really going to try to find out who it was. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. My husband passed away in the winter of 2020. About 2 months later, I realized we had failed to make vacation plans, so I did. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. This is why, despite all the stumblings that we've come in from our trip to Mexico, I'm making sure we go. All right. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. This season has not changed. It's still cold, and it's not supposed to get warm until May. Severeweather.com. That's what my oil man said as he fills the tank. I was going to mention, welcome to spring, everybody, and summer. Fall returns tomorrow. Seriously, it's going to be freezing by Saturday and Sunday. Okay, I'll read one more, and then we'll get into some of the stories. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I came to the conclusion that insomnia is a symptom of something more. The change, menopause. Round of applause for... Let me mention again that if you tell a story, you get a book. You might not get this one. It's baseball season starts today. You may know I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Dodger fan. And I'm guessing that was my guess, that it has nothing to do with the Dodgers. There are freeways on there, though.
Go Broncos!
You like the sport? Yeah. Okay. I will put that back in case you've really been wanting to read that. Yeah, you've read it?
No,
what if? Nah, well, yeah, I saw the name. I thought I'd play it up. But if you tell a story, you get a book. That's a pretty good deal. Okay. Also, at the end of the night, or whenever you want, we have story night stickers. I know. Well, this is a new thing. We haven't seen you in a while, so I got these made right before we launched up again, and we still have some left. We still have room for more storytellers. So come, if you get inspired before the night's over, come see me. All right. Okay, I'm going to pass something out here real quick. This is based on something else I've seen. You don't have to do this. I work in elections. There won't be anything related to that. Just take it. If you feel like writing it, pass it down. I'll explain a little bit. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so the story here, some of you remember Janae Sparks and Nessa Goldman. They host a storytelling event that changes between Sequim and Port Angeles. And the way they let me know about it is they send me an email. And it provides certain other instructions. And I thought, well, we could do that. And since so many people miss the stuff that's on Facebook, and I can't count on Facebook to get my message to every one of you. So, because you might not log into Facebook, you might not check your email either, but that's understandable. But anyway, I just want to be able to contact you. My guess is you'll get a couple of emails a month. One will talk about what we just saw and maybe a little bit about the next event. And then the next one will be just a reminder of what's coming up. So fill that out, and I'll be happy to send you a couple of emails a month. Okay. So trying to think, anything else I've missed? Oh, at the end of the night, you see this flag. If you've never signed the Story Night flag, I've got cloth markers over there, and I'd like you to sign it. It's a memento of what we've done here, and this goes back, I don't know, another year or so. So, okay. I'm going to read one more of these, and then I'm going to pick a name out of the bag. And that will be our first storyteller. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you, when the only time I was up at 2 a.m. was to use the bathroom. 2 a.m. is when I get up to use the bathroom. I didn't write that one. And to play Wordle. Our first storyteller tonight will be Doug Avery. And I'll read this while you're... Well, you can just do that. I'll read this while Doug's on his way up. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you, when the only... Oh, no, wait, we just read that one. Unless... Bingo! Yeah, there's another one there, huh? That is a hidden one. When I started to lose my hair. I'll let you go anonymous on that one. Please welcome Doug Avery.
I think Steve knew I had to get my kids to bed, so he called me first. So I usually get up here and I tell a lot of stories about where I'm going in life. And for those of you who have been here the last couple of story nights, you know that I've had a job for about 10 years that I loved, but I was getting extremely frustrated with. And originally I was going to stand up here and just tell the story about finally changing jobs. But it's now a little more than that. Yeah. So when I moved out here a little over 9.5 years ago from Connecticut. Thank you. Within a month, I got a job, and I've been at that job for about 9.5 years. Up until then, it is the longest job I've ever held. I became a manager. I had my own store. I was really in love with my job, but the company was starting to kind of falter. They were kind of starting to not treat their employees properly. Being 40 years old and just now getting into the workforce, allows me kind of a unique perspective on how things should work. And now that I'm finally, as I say, growing up, I'm starting to learn when companies take shortcuts, when they cut corners. And I was starting to see that in the job that I was working at. They gave everybody a 50-cent raise in July of last year to tell us that it was for hard work. And then when the minimum wage went up, they took that gap away by only bringing everybody up to minimum wage. Yeah, so I started to see things like that. And I thought to myself, I think maybe it's time to start looking for a new work. I myself have also been denied for a promotion on multiple occasions where they've hired from outside of the company, but have deemed me good enough to train that person for the job. Right. Now, I set standards for myself. I didn't know what my worth was like. Again, this job that I've had for the last 9.5 years is the first real job that I've ever held. So I set standards for myself. I said, I'm going to look for a new job, but I don't want to step back. I don't want to go back down the ladder. Even if I have to change work, I want to maintain my position because I know what I'm capable of. And that's kind of what this story is about. It's how it evolved. My entire life, I've spent people telling me what I'm capable of and me believing it, me not necessarily thinking for myself what I'm capable of. I've had two goals since I graduated high school. One of them was to be a published author. One of them was to own my own small business. Part of the reason why I took the job when I got out here was because the job was for Subway and it was making sandwiches. And that had always been what my small business was going to be. I wanted to run my own sandwich shop. Doug's never upside down sandwiches. True story. It's got a rather evocative acronym that does not fly well in this day and age. He's thinking about it. And I realize I probably have to change it when this finally happens, but at the end of the story, I'm going to use that evocative acronym anyway because it's got a point to it. But the other thing, like I said, I wanted to do is be a published author. Now, about 18 years ago, I did publish one book of poetry through an on-demand publishing company who pretty much took my money and ran. And I have not gotten back into that in 18 years because I've been a little afraid to step back out there. And recently I've been telling people that I want to get back into it. I want to open up my own business. I want to publish my own book. And I still get the occasional like, well, that's never going to sell. That's kind of a dumb idea. Are you really capable of that?
We believe in you.
Thank you. Because I believe in me now. Thank you. So I did put myself out there and I did apply for new jobs. And to my surprise, I got 3 job offers with 3 different companies. I said the same thing. Pizza Hut hired me, and they wanted me to relocate to Port Angeles, which, couldn't really do that, so I had to step a little back. Taco Time hired me. Now, I did really want to work for Taco Time, but the position would have been a step back and the pay would have been less, and I just respectfully had to decline. So I did finally get hired at another place, and they're very well known for, it's hip to be square at this fast food restaurant if you pick up what I'm putting down. Yeah. Thank you. They make great baked potatoes, too. So I was really happy to take this new job. Somebody got it. I like it. I was really happy to take this new job. I was going on to new endeavors. I didn't have to take a step back. They were paying me $4 more an hour than I was currently making at my current job. and I felt really good about myself. When I got to their orientation and I watched the training video, I realized I finally got to learn the secret of why their patties are always square. And it's because they literally do not cut corners. So on top of all that, in my moment of greatness, I'm feeling really awesome about getting a new job. It's hard work. I mean, I've been working fast food my entire life, and I forgot what it was like to work in front of a fryer for 8 hours. It's hard work, okay? But I have been working in fast food for my entire life. And food service on the outside has changed fundamentally over the last 20 years, whether it's the products they offer, the services they offer, the healthier food. The one thing that has not changed is the atmosphere for the workers inside food service. They get treated less than well most of the time. And it's just kind of the stigma that comes with it. So I set out for myself, and I told myself, I said, you know what? I said, this is your time. You're ready to be who you want to be all this time. And I decided that I was ready to take the next step and finally trying to open up my small sandwich shop. So in 2 weeks, I do have a meeting with a small business advisor to take my first step towards that. Thank you. I downloaded a business course off of Udemy, which I realize will not get me a degree, but it will give me new information, new insight, and it will help me learn some more of what I need to learn. I decided that I need to supplement my income some more. So another interview that I have in 2 weeks is with a couple of schools. I'm going to publish my first ever children's book. That's been my dream. Thank you. It's based off of stories I would tell my kids when they were growing up, and I wanted my book to be unique. And I can't draw worth of beans. And I decided that in order to hide my terrible drawing into my book, I decided to make my book unique, and I want my illustrations done by kids. So I've got a couple of meetings with a couple of schools to have their students draw what they interpret the scenes as in the book, and that's what my book's going to be. So be on the lookout for Princess Purple Peanut and the Rainbow Butterflies on Amazon. Princess Purple Peanut and the Rainbow Butterflies. Yep, my goal is 2 months. Like I said, I have a couple of meetings with schools to get some pictures drawn. I'm hoping my kids over there would draw a couple for me. There we go. And I want to use that to kind of supplement my income, become the author I wanted to do, but more importantly, I want to open up my own small business where I can start to change the face of food service, not only for the food that is served, but for the way that the workers are treated. And if you guys will forgive me this moment, I will get back to my acronym, Doug's Never Upside Down Sandwiches. When it becomes a success, all the other sandwich shops in the business can take D's nuts. Have a great day.
Give it up for Doug. So I am so glad you finally told us, spelled it out for some of us. Maybe this is a sign that season's changing for me, but I spent a minute there going, wait, what is the... Okay, yeah. And I'm like, well, it'd be better if his name was D, but anyway. All right, congratulations, Doug. That's awesome. Thanks. Round of applause. Sounded like, never mind. That motorcycle sound is what I'm talking about. Dinner's good tonight, huh? Okay. So, oh, by the way, get the pizza if you haven't ordered already. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I was 20 years old and the high schoolers called me ma'am. Oh, this is nice. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I put my youngest son on a plane to New York, This was me cutting the apron strings. So I'm going to tell a story that I've told on this stage before. I'm going to do it as quickly as possible, but it kind of plays into the rest of my experience going to the Moth. When I was, 6 years ago, my wife and I flew down to Los Angeles to see Bruce Springsteen in concert. And we flew to LA. Yes, there are Bruce fans here. What's that? LA fans as well, yeah. Well, so I grew up down there, and when I was 18 or 19 years old, he went on the tour for The River, and the album The River, and I couldn't go to the concert because we were going away on vacation. And so it was another 10, 12 years before I got to see Springsteen live. And he was doing a show in LA on a river tour. He was reviving that album tour. So I said, let's go to LA, same building he was in that time. And we went, it was great. I got a high five from Bruce. So for a couple of days, I knew what it was like to not want to wash my hand. Several months later, he did a book signing in Seattle. Diana and I went again to go see him, and we got a picture with him and an autographed book. The book is fantastic if you haven't read it. And it was all my Bruce dreams come true because I've got this photo of Bruce. Now, Bruce became my favorite musician when I was 18 years old. He wasn't my first favorite. My first favorite was Herman's Hermits. There's enough gray and white hair in this room to know who Herman's Hermits are. Okay. Well, we're getting there. Okay. So when I was 3 or 4 years old, my brother had a baseball game. We went to the game. Everybody's commiserating about, Herman's Hermits, yeah. He was dreamy. Anyway, when I say he, Peter Noon was essentially Herman to me, and I think to mostly everybody. Okay, so there was a song. Anyway, I went to a baseball game that was, it wasn't by choice, but my brother was playing, and my mom needed to take me with her. So we went to this game, and at one point I had to go to the bathroom, and they had these outhouses, like porta potties, set up not far from the bleachers. And I was in line, I got in line, and I got into the potty, and it must have been a seated affair because I started to sing. And the song was Henry VIII. I'm Henry VIII, I am, Henry VIII, I am. I got married to the widow next door. Second verse, same as the first, the whole thing, and I was singing it fully lunged, I think. And people were smiling outside. I assume I was sitting because I don't think I could sing the whole, well, I don't know, who knows? I was a little boy. Things moved quicker when I was a kid. So anyway, there was a crowd outside this porta potty really enjoying this, and my mother enjoyed it too. So there's this is an aside. I mentioned I do comedy, and a guy I saw a couple of times, I'm going to tell his joke. So if you ever hear it, laugh. It's because I don't want to get in trouble. But he said he met a guy who serviced honey buckets. And he asked him, what's his biggest fear? And he said, bears that can read. It's pretty good. He's got a lot of other ones. Quinn Fitzgerald, I think is his name. He's funny. So anyway, Mom tells this story. I don't remember this, but I trust my mother. Her honesty is impeccable. So this was a family legend for quite a while that here I was singing full-throated in this potty. And years later, that same brother who was playing in the baseball game was living in Hawaii. He came to visit me. And it happened to coincide with a visit by Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits. And I said, brother, do you want to go see Peter Noon? And he said, of course, because my brother is 10 years older than I am, and this is what a 70-year-old, well, he wasn't 70 at the time. Oh my gosh, he was probably 60. I just turned 60 myself, so I shouldn't be ragging on him. But anyway, Peter Noon was in his wheelhouse. He said, yeah, let's go. And we went, and the concert, if you liked Herman's Hermits, you would have loved this concert. If you didn't like Herman's Hermits, you wouldn't have enjoyed the concert. I don't know why you would have gone, other than to maybe see Herman or Peter Noon not sing very well. But he sang great. Anybody ever seen him? Another characteristic of him is he's funny. He tells jokes throughout the whole show. And he told a joke about Belfair. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. And so what he said was, how many are here from Belfair? A few people raised their hand. He says, I thought so. You drove here in your house. See, it was funny to me because I'm not from Belfair. Yeah, well, of course I got it. I lived in fancy Silverdale at the time, so. So anyway, the concert was great. He was tremendous, and there was a meet and greet afterwards, and there were people in line, and the guy in front of us was about my size, and the woman that was with him said, "Can he take a picture with you?" to Peter Noon, and Peter Noon said, "Sure. Will we need a wide-angle lens?" Yeah. Well, so this kind of stung. Now, usually I can take the fat jokes, and I try to tell them, and people don't really want me to tell fat jokes, and I totally get that. But for whatever reason, at that moment, it kind of stung. I felt it. And so it came our turn to go see him. My brother and Peter Noon had a mutual friend, and they talked about him for a little bit. I got a picture of him with him. And then my brother asked if I wanted a picture with him, and I said no. Because I was still kind of stinging from what had happened. I just kind of wanted to get out of there. And I probably was 10 steps out of the building before I regretted that. I was like, oh, come on. This is your childhood hero. Nobody's perfect. You've told these same jokes about yourself, that kind of thing. So why did you do that? But anyway, we walked away. I never got a picture. But I still have that picture of Bruce. And it's in a prominent place in my house. It's Diana. Diana's in the same picture. Then Bruce is in the middle. And then there's me. And I got to tell you, Diana's my wife. I look goofy as hell in this picture. It's because I was trying to talk to him. It's like, well, no, just stand for the picture. Come on. He's going to listen to you. Come on. Anyway, so it's one of my favorite things. And it not only reminds me of meeting this hero, it also reminds me of not getting the picture with Peter Noon. And it reminds me that every once in a while, you got to set aside all the criticism, anything anybody will say about you. If they're being mean, you just got to forget it. And you got to sit on a toilet and sing your heart out. There's more later. Okay. Our next storyteller is Allison Loris. While Allison makes her way up on stage, I'll read a couple more of these. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. And any kids in the audience? Well, we're probably all right. When I found out there was no Easter Bunny. It's news to me. Okay. By the way, we're also attempting to live stream. And so let's turn around and wave, say hi to the audience. I don't know if they can hear us, but we're giving it a go. Okay. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When my period stopped. So, one more of these and then I'll be sensing a theme. Okay. Please welcome Allison Loris.
So I've been told I should eat the mic. How's this? Okay. All right. My mother, my late mother, suffered seriously from depression, and probably more than that. I'm not sure whether she was bipolar, because she certainly had some manic times, or borderline personality, something. And a big part of that was despising herself and belittling herself. And when she was 60, she started calling herself old. I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to learn anything new. I'm too old to go anywhere. And at the same time, she was dyeing her hair. She was taking hormones that caused her to be still having periods at age 60. Yeah, I know. And I do have a lot in common with my mother. I have not always just simply defined myself in opposition to her. But that old thing freaked me out. And as a result, when I am now a year and a half older than she ever got to be, I've still balked at calling myself old. At a certain point, I decided I could call myself an elder. Because I have all sorts of wise advice to give, and that's what elders are for. You know, I can speak from my experience. But, you know, and I never, ever wanted to dye my hair. As a result, it's only in the last couple years I have any gray or white to show. But I've never minded getting older. And at the same time, I never was willing to define myself as old. But, you know, the last few years, my husband Ian and I, as many of you know, are involved in opening a brand new Mediterranean grocery store in downtown Bremerton. This is a pretty major endeavor. I'm still working. I work as a caregiver for a giant toddler. He's a 30-year-old male, physically normal 30-year-old male, except for being deaf, but his mind stalled out at age 2. So he really is a toddler, and he's really sweet. But I'm working. I have a full-time job, partly because his mother really doesn't want me to leave, and partly because I need the health care provided by my union. And Ian is still working. So, you know, we're opening a new business and doing all this. And our business hours are going to begin when we're both off work. So evenings and weekends. But I've started to realize that I don't have as much energy as I did 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. I'm willing to say now and then, okay, maybe I'm too old to do that. Like spend more than half an hour on my knees painting the floor in the front window, or rushing from one task to another. Well, we talk about seasons, the seasons of a life. My mother she was like a blighted apple tree. I mean, she burst into bloom at some point, and then it froze. And I think that I am now very happily, very proudly in the autumn of my life when I am bearing fruit instead of babies. And I am willing to say, yes, I am old. I am this old, and I'm proud of it.
Give it up for Alice and Loris. I'm not holding this up. I mean, it's fine that I'm doing it, but what's that? Yeah, no. We tipped the best storyteller. No, I want to let you know, it doesn't take a lot of money to run story night. If we want to do extra things, it sometimes takes a little extra money. If you feel like tipping us, we have a jar up here for that. One of our guests, and and this happens every time, thought these go in there. So I got to be clear about what goes where. Anyway, tell us about a time you realized the seasons had changed for you. No. Okay to wear flip-flops again. Anybody else here really bad with flip-flops? I used to love them. I don't seem to be able to wear them anymore. Yeah. It's probably all those years I wore Crocs, you know, those cushy things. I know, people are like snotty about Crocs. Come on. Because they're what? People like different things. Okay. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I had to put my readers on to read what this said. I salute you. Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer to tell a story? Okay, I'm going to tell a quick one, and then, oh, you got one? Well, no, I got it later. But you, what's that? Well, no, later. Give it up for Kim Weaver. Well, you're the only name left anyway. So.
That doesn't make me feel real good about it, but okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to tell a story about a time that I didn't realize how important seasons were. This started in the summer of 2007. It was kind of like the first time that I kind of like lost my connection to the space-time continuum. I think some of you probably know what I mean coming out of COVID right now, like what is time even, and every day is Blur's Day. But in the summer of 2007, on a very hot and muggy summer day in Philadelphia, I got on an airplane and flew an unreasonable number of hours and got off an airplane on a hot, muggy day in Ghana. And in case you don't know, Ghana is about 4 degrees north of the equator, so it's hot all the time. And another weird thing about living that close to the equator is there's none of this whole short days, long days BS that we suffer with here. Like every day, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. It is hot. It rains every afternoon at about the same time. And there were no seasons that I recognized. Now, my students, I taught high school there. My students talked about this season called Hamatan, which is when the wind blows down across the Sahara Desert. And they said, oh, madame, you will die. You will be so cold, you will die. And I was like, okay, I'm sweating balls up here every day. I have heat rash every day. I am very much looking forward to this thing called Harmattan coming. But when it arrived, like, my students are wearing, like, puffer jackets and, like, hat. It's 85 degrees. And I'm wearing my sundress, and I'm like, this is kind of great. I could get behind this Harmattan, and it lasted 3 weeks, and then it was over, and it was back to it. And so I really didn't know when it was, because it was just like this all the time. And there's a very standard response in Ghana whenever anybody asks when a promised future event is going to happen. And that saying is any moment from now. You know, so anytime I would say things like, oh, you know, headmaster, when our class is going to start this term? Any moment from now. You know, you're at the station, you're trying to catch a bus. Like, when will the bus leave? Oh, any moment from now. You know, the electricity is off all the time. You know, when is the electricity coming back on? God willing, any moment from now. And it took me a little while to realize that that doesn't mean soon. Like, all it means is not now. No one knows, and you seem to be the only person who can't figure that out. So why are you asking? So, like, this went on for 27 months. It was basically like Groundhog Day, but in a sauna. And when I returned to the U.S., it was late summer of 2009. It was a hot, muggy Philadelphia summer, and it was as if no time had passed. I was very confused. I still wrote 2007 on my checks. I had to manually add 2 to my age whenever I was filling out forms. I was like, oh, yes, that's right. All of those same days, that added up over time. And it wasn't until that fall when things got super cold and a cold snap and the leaves started falling and I stopped sweating and put on a sweater that, like, the time stream restarted again for me, and I've been kind of, like, moving along since then, although I still have to add those 2 years. It's real weird. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So when COVID times hit in the spring of 2020, like, it was shocking how well my Peace Corps experience prepared me for lockdown. I mean, toilet paper? Who needs that, right? I don't know. And the isolation and not knowing when anything ever was going to happen, like, God willing, any moment from now, right? Like, I was ready. Like, I was really, really good at lockdown. And, there was that, like, brief period of time, like last summer and fall, when I was like, maybe? Is it now? Like, is spring 2020 finally over? And then, the hard frost of Omicron kind of sent me scurrying back into my house, and I went back on lockdown and started ordering groceries again and basically revoked, my membership in the entire human race. I was like, peace out, y'all. And so, like, here we are, friends, and it's 25 months later. This is my first time being inside without a mask on. Freaking out a little bit on the inside. And I'm, like, wondering, like, is it time to re-enter the time stream? Like, here we are in spring again. Like, can I do it without, like, losing my and running out of here? I don't know. Like, so far so good, but I'm not making any promises. And, like, is it over? Like, am I ready? Like, is it time? Like, when am I gonna be okay? Like, out in the world? Any moment from now. Thanks.
What a perfect message for the days we're in, isn't it? Round of applause for Kim. So, Jose, you'll come up next? You have a story? Okay. Jose is next. All right. Actually, let me tell you something real quick. So let's see, what was it? Okay, I just want to tell you. So when I was a kid, I'm going to make this as quick as I can. When I was a kid, I played a lot of sports, and I got a lot of trophies. And most of my trophies were for being on the right team. It worked well for me, yes. Surround yourself with great people who make you look great. Okay, so they lined a thing over the window that my mom set up. I had brothers who got trophies, but maybe there was a little more. What is it they call it? The trophy thing when they give out participation trophy. There might have been a little more to that, but no, I was on really good teams. The one individual trophy I ever got was for being the most improved player. You don't want that trophy. Because in a lot of cases, as it was in mine, it's a mark of how bad I was when the season began. My oldest got that trophy, and I didn't say a word about it. I was like, congratulations, great job. I'm a good dad. So anyway, the tallest trophy I had probably went up past my knee. I was, that is true. That is true. But I think it went up above my knees now. It was really tall. And it was because I was on a team. We were in a 5-game tournament, and I was up for the last at-bat of the tournament. We were up 11-0. The bases were loaded. The pitcher threw it behind my head. Catcher missed it, run scores. There's a 12-run mercy rule. So the game was over. I drove in the winning run. And for that, I got this. It was the only time I got to play in that whole tournament, and I got this huge trophy for it. So trophies kind of meant less and less as time went on, because I realized, well, it doesn't mean I did anything really. And in my 20s, in case, you might want to warn your kids, they stop handing you trophies when you're in your 20s. I know. It's ridiculous. Sometimes you'll get certificates, which you can wallpaper your house with. But I stopped getting trophies, and life got what it was, and I wasn't that athletic anymore. And one night I went with, I was on a baseball trip back east with a friend of mine, and we went to a bar. It was Hooters. We went there to get dessert. Well, here's the thing, though. We had had dinner already, and they told us they don't serve dessert. So we left. No, we didn't. What they did have going on that night was a contest. It was a robotic boxing contest. And if you've ever, this crowd's old enough to remember Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the little game as a kid, the little levers you pull, and there's these little robots in there that punch each other, and then you make the head go up, and you're the winner. They had a life-size version inside the other room in the bar. And they were having a contest, a robotic boxing contest. And what you would do is you put your hand in these paddles and move them, and hopefully your boxer would move and knock this welding mask up and knock out the other fighter. And it was a room. Wilmington is there's a lot of military presence in Wilmington, and so in this room there was a lot of testosterone. And I was 29, and most of those exhibiting testosterone were much younger than I was, athletically fit. And my friends, I didn't really want to go in it, but my friends urged me to do it, and so I did it. And they put up the prize money, or the entry money. It was $3 to enter the contest. They put in $1 each. I don't know why that swayed me, but it did. So I did it, and I did the first. My goal was to win one fight, and I went out there and I did this first fight, and I ended up winning that first fight, and so I'm like, mission accomplished. I was good with it. My next fight was against one of my friends who had decided at the last minute he had a real competitive spark in him. He decided he wanted to do it, and so I'm like, I can't let my friend beat me. So we went out there, we fought, and I won. Mission accomplished. But I start looking around the room, and I notice how competitive everybody is about this. And I'm just thinking, this is the dumbest thing in the world to be this excited about. And so I thought, well, I have to beat them. I have to beat all of them. I'm not going to go down not swinging. And so my next fight was against last month's champion. He was crushed that I beat him. Just absolutely mortified, which made me thrilled. Because again, this is so dumb that you're this excited about it. And then I don't remember the last two fights. What I can say is that though these other fighters were younger, they were also drinking that night, and I was not. So I had that going for me. And somehow I ended up winning the whole thing. They gave me $64 and a trophy. It was a boxer trophy. And we're walking out. I don't know if this really relates to the story or not, but we were at a Hooters, and we're walking out of the parking lot, and I hear, Steve, and I look around, and it's one of the waitresses. She says, I want to ask you out on a date. She's like, nah, I just need to invite you to the next event. I'm like, we're not from here. I won't be coming back, but here, sign it up. And yeah, that was. I did get an invite to go back, and I'm sure the reigning champ from the month before was able to go back and try to reclaim his title. My nickname, by the way, that night was Dr. Lecter, because Silence of the Lambs was out at the time, and so I think I intimidated everyone. Anyway, that trophy actually turned out, the more I looked at that trophy, the more it meant to me. Because I had all these trophies as a kid for being on the right team, and I wasn't a bad athlete. I was good. I contributed to these team efforts, but I had never done something on my own through sheer will, through saying, I'm going to do this, and had a trophy that made me feel so rewarded. And for the next few months, I had this on my shelf, and I'd look at it, and I'd be reminded of that. And this was coming at a time when life was in a big transition for me. I wasn't doing well professionally. I wasn't doing well, if you're not doing well, anyway, I wasn't doing well romantically. A lot of things were not going well for me in my life. And my brother kind of coached me during this time. He kind of coached me to get me on a track where I could start believing that I could accomplish things again. And I had this trophy, and so because of what my brother did, I gave the trophy to him. There's more. We'll get to that later. Please welcome, oh, wait. I want to read a couple of these. Yeah. Jose, come have a seat. You know, and you don't have to take orders from me. I'm just inviting you to come have a seat. Okay. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I curled up in my bed at 4 p.m. on a winter day, winter had arrived. Drat. I can relate. And tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. October 1st and February 1st every year. I think that's his worst allergy season, begins the beginning of October and goes through most of winter. No fun. My condolences. For you go 5 months thinking you might have COVID, I know. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you, when my tall 19-year-old son led me by the hand through a dark forest. Wow. That's a trusting parent right there. And with that, please welcome Jose Castro.
Thank you, Steve. So my story, well, tonight's like that. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm gonna hold it in my hand. Is that okay? All right. So my story is not really about seasons change. It's more like about clothing, but it's related. Because from where I come from, I can use a short literally every time of the year I can use it like a short. But that's true because I'm saying it here. But when I was in the Caribbean, it could be 70 and I can wear like, I don't know why, but I like to wear like long pants. And I can say that maybe this is a generalization, but everybody does use long pants in the Caribbean when it's 70 because it's cold for us. And then I was making a reflection about, well, seasons change, yeah, but also like year change and clothes change. And for other example, here it could be like 50 and I can wear like wool socks with a short pant and then I will be cozy. But I never imagined myself doing that in the Caribbean, I can tell. And the other thing I learned about closet here and how to dress properly is like layers. So wow, so you can use like more than one T-shirt to keep yourself cozy during the winter. So those little lessons can be like standard for here, but if I use layers there, I will be sweating a lot. So long story short, when I first came here and I start going through all this process, accommodating my clothing and my gear and my shoes, that's really like a process that requires like a lot of reflection. It requires a lot of like timing. Most important, it requires like a lot of money to like wear the right gear. Goodwill, yeah, that's the sword. So. But one lesson I learned about seasons change is that maybe you could use like, I could used to use the same year all the time. If you pick the right year, you will be prepared to overcome weather, overcome a lot of situations. And thanks to that reflection that I made, I was able at this point to hike 40 trails in Washington State. I being able to go through the snow and walk through the snow with the right gear. I being able to be like in Western Washington when that's a story for another year, but it's like a desert over there. So I've been able to be at many places here in Washington, but using the right gear. And when it comes to like how seasons change, it's like the same process of like having lots of clothes, having less clothes. Suddenly you're putting like more clothes while the year goes on until you're like fully stuck with a lot of clothes during the winter. So that was my reflection I wanted to share with you all. That was the story, but thank you very much.
Next month, by the way, our theme is transparent, May 5th. And one of the things you'll get in the email, when I promise you, is what I'll do is we have set up the themes for the rest of the year. It's okay if I tell everybody what they all are, because I don't know them now, but I'll email them to you. Yes. You got to give somebody something for doing that. Okay. So you don't have to. Would you like to tell it? Okay. You come up with something. All right. I'm going to read a couple of these. On my mother's death. Oh, let's see. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. On my mother's death. This occasion has different realities to all people, but for me, it was my season of being a child of a mother had ended. My life was now no longer guided by my dear mom. Yep, go ahead. Yep. Moms deserve that. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. There used to be a day I called Bird Day. It was the first morning in spring that I woke up to the sound of birds in my backyard in Michigan. Diana and I woke up recently to the sound of a woodpecker. Yeah. It's nature, it's fine. I realized seasons had changed for me when I joined in the conversations about joint pain or whatever aches I had. This is a true thing. I remember as a kid watching my grandparents talk to my parents and all that about all the ailments they had, and it just rolled my eyes. And now I go to bed healthy and wake up injured. I totally get it. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. When I retired. Congratulations. I hope it was by choice. I assume it was. You ready? Please welcome Jeff Allen.
Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, the kids are busy coloring or over there somewhere. Okay. So, change, right? Seasons of change. And so when we think about change, there's a start. There's a thing to change from. So I love dogs. Always have loved dogs. As a matter of fact, my first experience as a dog as a child, my parents had, I think they got him shortly after I was born, so I've known this dog since I was just an infant. Little scrappy mutt of a dog named Bimbo. You know, he was a kind of an our gang kind of a dog. Had a little black eye here and white and just a scrappy dog that loved to play catch. And that's how I learned to play catch with a dog. I'd throw and throw a stick, and the dog would catch. I'd throw the stick up into a tree. The dog would climb up into the tree and get the stick. There was a set of woods across the street from us, and I'd throw the stick out into the woods, and he would dig around in those woods for a half hour before he came back with the exact same stick. I love dogs. Dogs are awesome. Cats, on the other hand, suck. Where a dog is man's best friend, cats are like a reclusive roommate that poos in a box, right? I hope. Yes. Element of the story I forgot. Thank you for bringing that one up. So and when you have change in your lives, there's an inflection point, right? Something that happens that precipitates the pathway to the change that's to take place. So there's someone here that's probably going to argue with me later on about the details of the story, but I'm the one that's up here, so got it. The inflection point started with a phone call. I pick up the phone, and it's my daughter. And the question she asked me, because when you get a phone call from your daughter when she's in her early 20s, there's lots of things that it could possibly be, all of them involving money. Dad, how do you change a tire? I said, honey, wait. Don't you remember that Saturday afternoon where I taught you how and the painful it was, but I taught you, where are you? I'm on Highway 16 off of Purdy. We got a flat, and in my mind I'm going, you live in Bellingham. What are you doing down in Kitsap County off of Purdy? And she goes, how do you change a tire? Long story short, I go to change the tire and get the story, and the story was, and we'll dispute this later on tonight, but I'm the one telling the story. And I'm going to get the names right, or wrong, so just, Well, Rachel was going to get rid of her cat, and they're going to send it to the Humane Society, and they kill cats, so Amanda and I came down here to rescue him, and so, how do you change a tire? So, my son and I go out to Highway 16, Purdy, and this was the day I met Marvin, the fucking cat, who has been sitting in the back of this white POS Ford Taurus with Mercury Sable, sorry, same manufacturer, yeah, okay. Just sounds better, a Sable, with the tire blown out in the side. Marvin, the effing cat, is sitting in the back seat, pissed, angry, doesn't know what's going on, peed all over everything in the back seat of the car. And so, wrapping up this portion of the story, 4 new tires later, Katie she's going, I want to kill him later. She goes home, takes Marvin back up to Bellingham in her apartment with a roommate. So I'm down here in Bremerton. My son is living with me. We live out here in Manette. And I get a call from Katie, and this is about 3 months later. So Marvin and Munster Munster happened to be Amanda's cat, don't get along with each other, and so Munster was here first, so Frank said he'd take Marvin. You figured out how that worked? Yeah. So Marvin, the effing cat, moved to Bremerton. So let me tell you about Marvin. Marvin is he's ungrateful, vindictive. This whole spraying thing is actually not just a habit. It's like, I'm pissed at you, right? So the first couple of months or years, we had it out, and we worked together, and it was a difficult period of time. The first time I took him to a vet, we got him into box, took him into the little carrier box, and it was, him kind of like, until he got into the box. I took him to the vet, and the vet was like, wow, he's really nice. He's just doing great. He's just, he's a really nice cat. I'm looking at him going, what the? And he looks at me and goes, And after the whole thing was over, I open up the little box in the vet, and he just kind of walks in, gets into the box, stops and looks at me, gets in. I thought, wow, he's actually, hey, maybe we've made a breakthrough, right? Things are going okay. So he doesn't like it in the box. So he's really arguing with me about being in the box, and I'm just down in Manette. I just got a couple of blocks to go. I had to stop, and so I let him out of the box. And he was jumping around in the car, and he was like walking around in the car, and he would jump down into the feet down below me, and I said, dude, I'm driving. Just sit over here, sit over here. We're coming up Perry Avenue, and he's sitting in my lap, and he puts his paws up out on the outside, on the window on the driver's side, looking out, what's going on. I thought, all right, he's kind of cool. He's enjoying this. Pull into the driveway, and he's kind of an indoor-outdoor cat, so I don't have to worry about it. I just open the door, and you go back in the house. So I open a car door, and I'm going, geez, cat, you farted. It smells in here. Then I look down at my lap, and he had left me a surprise. This is Marvin the effing cat. He's also not a bad cat. And Katie's giving me a hard look here. I met a friend who also is a dog person and has taught me to take care. She was feeding her dog raw. She taught me how to feed Marvin raw food. And Marvin and Woodstock, these two dogs and animals, or dog and cat, were about the same age, living through life the same age. And so for the last 8 years, I've been feeding Marvin well, taking care of him, trying to be, a good, because he is a spirit, he is a soul, he is a creature that we're sharing the same space with. And Woodstock had to be put down about a year and a half ago. Well, no, actually last spring. And Woodstock was a very super healthy 14-and-a-half-year-old Akita German Shepherd mix, which is actually a pretty extraordinary age for a dog like that. He would go swimming out in Old Man Park off of Suquamish, chasing boats at 14, right? So I was really proud of the fact that my friend had taught me how to take care of an animal like this, like Marvin, the effing cat, and feed him well and attend to his health because he deserves it. This morning, this is what kind of keyed this off this morning, Marvin has not been feeling well for the last year, so he's a little old, been working on his health. He's actually now a nice, bright, sunny day. He was super perky. This is the kind of cat who would, during the Biden-Trump debates, he is a groomer, a heavy groomer, and a heavy eater. And so at 5:30 every morning, he will sit next to my head, vigorously grooming himself in the nether regions as his sign of saying, hey, time to eat, wake up, let's go, time to eat, every morning. He will indiscriminately, vigorously groom himself in the nether regions at inopportune times when company is there. including during the Biden-Trump debate. I got a great picture of him. We were all sitting in the living room watching the Biden-Trump debate, and he's like, whatever. So this morning, I've been kind of concerned about him for the last couple of months because his health hasn't been that great. But this morning, things were perky. He ate his food this morning, and he climbed up. He's got this little spot in our bathroom where he will climb up the cabinetry, open the door, and then jump in and soil my towels up in the cabinet. But it's like up here. And so I was really pleased with him. Hey, this guy is almost 15-year-old cat, and he's just doing his thing, and he's tough and right. So the inflection point of, Dad, how do you change a tire? To about, 11 years later, I still love dogs. And Marvin's still an asshole. But he's tolerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I think you spoke about Marvin before, right?
Oh, no, that was a
Different effing cat. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, round of applause for Jeff. And he came up with that tonight, so extra points for that. We're not judging, but okay. So, tell us about a time you realized the season changed for you. I overslept. Could have happened today. You would have missed spring and summer, as I said earlier. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you after cataract surgery and no longer needed glasses after 50 years of wearing them. I'm going to save that one. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you, when being wrong about something stopped bothering me so much. Amen. Oh, there's lots to talk about that. Okay, you know what? This is one that I just found today, and I thought, what the heck, I'll read it. It was from an old story night. The question that night was, tell us about a time you couldn't wait to get the heck out of there. Almost every party I've ever been to. Okay, every party over 10 people. So my curiosity is, I don't know if this person is there tonight, but I thought it was interesting. The handwriting's the same. Anyway. Tell us about a time when you realized the seasons had changed for you. Monday. I turned 70. So I don't know. If anybody, okay, anyone wants to claim that? Okay, I'm gonna do one more thing and then we're gonna go home. But I mentioned that I went to the Moth on. February 3rd in Seattle at the Fremont Abbey, and I had never been there before, and so I knew we weren't doing an event, so I don't get to go, so I thought, let's take advantage of this. I wanted to see, and I saw what the theme was. It was awards, so I thought, okay, the trophy story, I could tell that. And I tried to get a ticket, and they were sold out. I was at work. It was at noon. I was on a break. It was okay. And So anyway, I have never bought a ticket in advance at a Moth event, except for the one that I knew I was going to be telling a story. So I bought a ticket. I didn't have to buy a ticket that night. Anyway, so I decided I'd take a chance anyway. And that's no small thing to go to an event in Fremont on no guarantee. So I drive over there. The ferry took longer than I thought. I got there later than I thought I was going to get there. Doors open at 7. The storytellers start at 8. And I'm driving around. I drive right past the building. I don't notice it. And then I finally figure out what it is. But those streets around there are tiny and packed, and there's no parking around there. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I almost decided to just come home. I figured out where the building was, but then I thought, well, if you go a couple blocks away, it might clear up a little bit. And I did it, and I got a place to park. And so I walked over to the Moth event, And I got to the door and I said, I don't have a ticket. Sometimes you guys let people in, but I knew because of COVID that my chances were a little reduced, that they're still operating under protocols about how big crowd sizes can be and all of that. And she said, okay, we may allow you in at 8 o'clock. And so I stood outside and waited. And 8 o'clock comes, and she asked the woman putting on the event, she says, I'm going to say, yeah, let him in. And so then I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to tell a story, because I wanted to go to tell a story. And I wrote on Facebook that night, before I got in, I said, I drove over here from Kitsap County, and I'm out, this was before I got in. I'm outside the event at the Moth. I don't have a ticket. I don't know if I'm going to get in. But if I do, I'm going to try to get my name in the bag to tell a story. I don't know if they'll let me do that. If they do, I don't know if my name will get called. If my name gets called, I don't think my story is that strong, so it's not like I'm going to win, but you never know. And I said, even if I get in and I get my name in the bag and I get on stage and I tell the story and I win, my biggest accomplishment tonight will have been finding a place to park. So they let me in, they let me put my name in the bag, and they went through 5 storytellers, and my name hadn't been called yet. And the Moth is very kind of meticulous about how they do it. 5 storytellers, a break, and then 5 more storytellers. And they have their scores up on a board in front of everybody. So I was sitting there, and I was thinking, you know what? I'd be fine if they don't call my name. And it wasn't the usual reasons that I would feel fine, because I wasn't happy with my story or I was nervous or anything like that. I was just enjoying it. And you've heard me tell about how I love storytellers. I recognize what motivates somebody to get up on stage and tell stories. I kind of like doing this, so thank you for indulging me. But to just go to a storytelling event and listen, I just have so much admiration and so much gratitude for all of you who do that. And I'm like, I'm going to be that tonight. And, you know, it's kind of a weird thing to think about. Because, like, when I go to a movie, I don't sit there wishing that I was on the screen. Or if I go to a play, I don't think, hey, I want to play this part now. It's not like that. But for whatever reason, for these events, it took me a while to understand it. And anyway, I was just like, this is great. And, of course, my name was called next once I came to this realization. So I got up, and I told the story that I just told you about the trophy. And I did fine. It was fine. I came in 8th place that night when it was all said and done. I had a blast. It was great. I don't feel bad about coming in 8th place, but a couple days later I was reading a book. It's called The Untethered Soul. And there was a point in there where, I did a high five. I can't remember the author's name, but there was a point in that book where he said something like, when you're feeling angry, stop and ask yourself why you're angry, and get to the kind of the root cause of it. And it's usually it's not that somebody hasn't victimized us. It's not that somebody hasn't wronged us. It's that there is something inside us that is not working that gets us angry. And I hearkened back to that night at the Moth, and I said, well, that wouldn't just work for anger. It could work for when you're feeling these moments of bliss too. Why am I feeling so blissful? Why am I so happy right now? And in that moment of the Moth, I was feeling so happy, and I hadn't asked myself why. And if I had, I would have told a different story. And it was one that I would have had to form in less time than it took to tell it. And what I would have said was, and it would have been super meta, a super meta story. Meta, for those, Ian had to explain what meta was to me. For me, meta is like a movie about movie making. It would have been a story about storytelling. I would have told the story about how I had a story in mind for the night, but I just want to tell something else. And I would have talked about that Herman's Hermit story. I would have talked about the first time I went to the Moth and told a story. I had gone 1 month and put my name in the bag, and I wasn't called. I went the next month, and my name was called first, and I told the Herman's Hermit story. And I did well. I did fine. And I was in first place up through 4 speakers, and then the 5th speaker had a story that was better than mine and was ahead of me. And I was fine. It was cool. And at the halfway point, they take a break. I went and got a beverage. And this woman comes up to me. And she said, I want you to know that the story you told tonight was something I really needed to hear. And when we get up and tell stories, I know a lot of times, and sometimes not, but a lot of times I want you hope that there's an impact. You hope that there's a meaning for somebody out there. And when she did that, she said something, she didn't go into details, but there's stuff going on in her life that she really needed to hear that story about sitting on the toilet and singing your heart out. And, you know, I thanked her, and as far as I know, I've never seen her again or anything like that. When I realized that that was my award that night, the theme from Story Night was that award, and or from The Moth that night that I told the trophy story was awards. And again, I wouldn't have cared about winning. The winning is in the telling. The winning is in the sharing of the story. The winning is in the listening of the story. The winning is in being in a room full of 40 to 50 people sharing our stories with each other. So we didn't judge tonight. We will in the future because it's kind of fun. And I think some people have fun with the competition element of it, and I think it sometimes motivates us to tell better stories because, you know, our weaknesses are that we like to win sometimes. But tonight we didn't judge. The winning was all in the telling, and the willing was being back here after 3 months away, and probably this has been the most gratifying night since before the COVID for me. So, no, we did some last year, and we did one at the Roxy. That was really fun. We were on the big stage. But we'll be back next month, May 5th. The theme is transparent. Any questions? Thank you, and we look forward to hearing your story.